Welcome to video for section 1.6 in the pre-algebra program, ordered pairs and relations. In this section, we are going to graph points on a coordinate plane. We're going to write ordered pairs given points on a graph. We're going to express a relation as a table and as a graph. Then we're going to define the domain and range of the relation. So to start, hopefully you have had some experience with graphing points before. Our first example, so I'm going to do just like you guys are going to have to do in your homework, which is make a makeshift graph. So do the best you can, use a straight edge if you have one. Try to make it as neat and orderly as you can so that your points become very clear. Just to remind you, when we are drawing in the coordinate plane, this horizontal line is called the x-axis and the vertical line is called the y-axis. And we always graph the x-coordinate first. So in all of our ordered pairs, you're going to see this format. It's the x, comma, y. So on this x, we find the first number. So if it's positive, of course, we go this way. And if it's negative, of course, we're going to go to the left. So for our first ordered pair, we see it as 1. And then my y, or my rise, is going to be 2. And so my point here is 1, comma 2. For my second example here, now notice my x value is negative. So instead of going to the right, now I'm going to go to the left. That's where the x values are negative. So I'm going to go over to the left, negative 2. And then, again, I'm going to rise 3. Negative 2, comma 3. And then for my final example, I have another negative x, which means I'm going to be going to the left, negative 3. And now my y is negative, and so that's going to take me down. 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are your 3 points. And that's all that we're looking for in the homework. So I want you to draw your own graph and then plot the points. Okay, now what happens if we have a graph and we have to identify what the points are? And let's say I have this point, we'll call it A. And let's say we have this point, we'll call it B. And then finally, let's do this point, we'll call it C. Okay, remember that you're always going to start x, comma, y. So we start at 0, 0, right in the center of our coordinate plane. And to find the point A, we're going to count over 1, 2. So my x value is 2. And then I count up 1, 2. So my y value is 2. So point A is at 2, comma 2. For B, again, we start at the center. And now we go to the left, or negative 1 for the x value. And we count up 1, 2, 3, 4 for my y value. Finally, for point C, again, we start at 0, 0, and we're going to count over 1, 2, 3. But now we're going down 1, 2, 3. So point C is at 3, comma, negative 3. There are a lot more examples like this in your book, so I'm going to move on to our final point here. So the last thing we're going to talk about is expressing a relation as a table and as a graph, and then talking about the words domain and range. So again, I hope that you've heard these words before, but in the event that you haven't or you need a refresher, the domain consists of all the x values in a relation or in a graph, and the range is all the y values. And you'll see this clearly as we work through this example. So let's start with 0, 1, 4, 2, and 1, 3. All right, so this is my relation that we're going to work with. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this relation and I'm going to write it as a table. And what that means is basically I'm going to write it like this. So I'm going to take my first point, 0, 1, which remember everything is written in x, y form. And now I'm just going to input that into my table. So where I see the x, I'm going to put the 0 underneath, and for the y, I'm going to put 1. For my next example, 4 is in the x column and 2 is in the y column. And in my third point, 1 is in the x column and 3 is in the y column. So this is what they're looking for when they ask you to put the relation in a table. They also ask us to graph. So using what we just learned, I'm going to take these points and put them on a coordinate plane. So the point 0, 1. Remember we always start at 0, 0 and start counting. Well, in my x position though, I have 0, which means I'm neither moving to the right nor to the left. I'm going to stay right there. And then my y value tells me to go up 1. So there is the point 0, 1. My next point is 4, 2. Back at 0, 0, my x value is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And my y value is 2. 1, 2. And then finally, 1, 3. I go over on the x 1 and then count up 3. And there is the relation expressed on a graph. Okay, the final thing they ask us to do is to identify the domain and range of this relationship. And the easiest way to see it probably is in the table, which we've already made. The domain is all the x values. The easiest way to see this is in the table. So when we look for the domain, we're looking in the x column. Now most of us will be quick to throw down 0, 4, 1 as the domain. But I'm going to be particular about your answer, and I want it to be written in what's called ascending order. So I don't want you to just write down what you see. I want you to make sure that you put it in increasing order or ascending order. That will make sure that it is correct. So the domain of this relation is 0, 1, 4. The range then are the y values. And these happen to be in ascending order, which is really nice. So the only other thing that I want to note about the domain and the range is that when you have multiple numbers in the same column, for example, if I have the table 2, 3, 2, 4, 3, 6, 4, 7, and I want to write the domain, again, don't just write down the column. I only want each number to be represented one time. So the domain is 2, 3, 4. It is not 2, 2, 3, 4. I want each number only to be represented one time. At this point, I want you to finish your notes and open your book to the section, read through the section and the examples, and begin your assignment.